Good morning. Welcome. I'm Julie Thompson, Executive Director of PACTV. Today we're bringing you the COVID-19 update from the town of Duxbury, and this is from the Duxbury Council on Aging, and it's from Kay Cooney, who's an advanced practice geriatric nurse and a wellness coach, and also Joanne Moore, who's the Director of the Council on Aging. You can watch this show every Wednesday at 10:30 on Comcast 15 or Verizon Channel 39, or go to pactv.org/live. So without further ado, let us welcome Joanne and Kay. Good morning, ladies.
Thanks so much for being on the show today and sharing some great information during this time of COVID-19. There's lots of stress for everyone, little and lots. So I think it's really timely that you're going to share with us how to de-stress during a stressful time. So I'm going to turn it over to Kay, and she's going to share her words of wisdom with us.
Sorry, I was muted. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope you all are doing well. So, you're going to have to deal or bear with me just for the first few moments. So, as we are undergoing construction in our house, my router wasn't working in my office. So, I have to do my show today live. And I've got the bird in the bathroom, the dogs are running around, there's construction everywhere. So, how apropos that for stress, we're going to do this under duress, good duress. So anyhow, so bear with me. I'm looking forward to tackling this topic with all of you this morning. I think it's really, really important. So when you take the topic of stress on, right, we can approach this by a million different angles. And my goal, like it is every week, is to keep things so that they're simple and that you can walk away with something with a greater understanding and a solution to how to reduce, and in this case, obviously reduce stress. So this is not supposed to be an all-encompassing. This really is supposed to be about giving you tips and tricks to go home and do things better. I love when you send your questions in to me during the show. I look forward to seeing them. If you have ways that you have been tackling stress during this, or your ways of tackling stress aren't working for you during this endemic, please send in an email. I love to have the questions while I'm doing this. So we're going to get to our first slide. So I'm actually using slides today. I happened to, this was a presentation that I had, so I'm sharing this with you all today. And the first slide, let me just put right here. So we're going to talk about what stress is. And what stress really is the body's response or reaction to any kind of change, okay? So there are all kinds of stress that are out there. When the body reacts to these changes, there is a physical response, a mental response, and an emotional response, okay? Stress is a part of life. You can experience stress from your environment, your body, your thoughts, just about anywhere, right? All of us are dealing with this in some way, shape, or form. However, and this is one of the powerful messages that I want to get through to you today, it's not an absolute. So the things that cause me stress don't cause you stress. So stress is a perception issue. And that's one of the keys to managing stress, okay? Now, let me just, hold on one sec. I just need to make an adjustment. All right, let's go on to our next slide. So, stress causes disease, period. This is truly a non-negotiable statement. And I think this is, arguably, maybe we should have started here with the COVID series. But what we did was, there's so many things that are pivotal to maintaining health and wellness that, and what I find is historically, people don't want to talk about mental health. They don't want to talk about stress. They don't want to talk about anxiety. They don't like to admit it. So I usually put this further in when I'm teaching and educating people so that we can develop trust beforehand and they realize that this is part of a whole model, right? So stress is a lifestyle habit that significantly impacts chronic illness. Diet, right? So you go to your doctor and your doctor may or may not talk to you about your diet, may or may not ask you about your alcohol consumption or if you smoke. But how often do we get in and out of the doctors and they never talk to us about our stress, right? It's such a pivotal part. And again, mental health awareness. Why are we ignoring this huge aspect of our life that causes disease? Okay. So, this is why we're tackling this today as part of the whole COVID-19. When we're stressed, the immune system ability to fight off antigens is reduced. So, let's talk about what an antigen is: a virus, a bacteria, right? Think about times during your life. When do people get sick? They get sick at the holidays. If you've lost somebody, if somebody's passed and you've gone through a stressful bereavement period, you tend to have lots of disease and illness coming on. So periods of stress bring on antigens, and we don't have the ability to fight them off because we're so stressed. Okay. This is why we're more susceptible to infections when we have high stress levels. So think about this. We're going through this global pandemic right now, which is causing stress, which means in and of itself, that is making us more susceptible to corona. So it is really important that we tackle this. The stress hormone, corticosteroid. So I love talking about fight or flight response. Okay. So the stress response is really all about fight or flight, right? So what was fight or flight designed for? So our bodies are perfect and designed to take care of themselves. Fight or flight goes way, way back. So comes a wild tiger, and the fight or flight response was designed to help that prehistoric man, right, run. So what it does is it shuts down a lot of the systems in your body and your organs, and it gets the blood supply out into the extremities, into the muscles, so that you have the capacity to run. That fight or flight response still exists and is still inside us as it was designed. But the problem is that now we're not running from big tigers, right? So we're fight or flighting over our bosses, our spouses, our kids, our dogs, right? We're fight or flighting like crazy all the time, and we're not supposed to. So it's this inherent system that was designed to protect us that is now causing disease. So this constant surge of corticosteroid, what does that look like for all of us, right? So most of us have like the tire around the belly, around the bum, right? It helps pack fat on, right? Stores up calories and energy so that when we are in being threatened, we have fat to burn, right? We don't need that. There's no tigers chasing us anymore, right? So what ends up happening is it contributes to disease in a cascade chemically. So again, getting rid of or reducing stress reduces the corticosteroids, that is the cortisol that is going through our body. Okay. Stress can also have an indirect effect on the immune system in terms of when we have a stress response, we tend to do more dysfunctional things, right? So during this pandemic, what we're seeing is more folks consuming alcohol. Alcohol consumption's gone up. So stress in and of itself causes disease, but stress also drives us into maladaptive behaviors. So, again, this is what we're talking about. Stress is linked to headaches, infections, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, asthma, gastric ulcers, all sorts of illness. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So here we're going to talk about, and I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to go through it for you. And we will make sure that these slides are available to you guys on Duxbury Senior Center's webpage. They're so good. Their resources, they're wonderful, and you should check that out. So the impact of stress, let's start with your body, right? And I really want to impress on you why it's so important that we start controlling this. So stress increases your perception of pain. It really does. So it also opens you up to frequent infections, rashes. So I always find this fascinating because I'm a rash person. I'm highly reactive to the environment. Rashes are your most primitive response in your body to an antigen and a stressor. So I know that if I get a little itchy, and I always get a little itchy rash right here when I'm stressed out on my arm. Increased glucose. So for those of you, we talked last week about metabolic syndrome. Those of you who are diabetics or pre-diabetics, you have a surge in glucose when you're stressed. Now, here's another interesting fact. High sugar levels feed the bacteria and the virus. So even if you're not diabetic, if you're under a lot of stress and you're surging those sugar levels up, you are inadvertently feeding the monster, right? So that's important. Chronic fatigue goes hand in hand with chronic stress. Increased inflammation. So we were talking last week or the week before about inflammation, foods that cause inflammation, that inflammation is ultimately the cause of all of our disease. We don't want it. Stress will increase your inflammation. Increased risk of cardiovascular disease, thyroid disease, and gastro diseases. Weight gain, right? There's all your different things that we know through research have caused problems. What about, so there's your body. What about in your mind? What is stress doing in your mind? It's the worry, confusion, can cause nightmares. It can lead us to make bad decisions. So, you know, when, and if any of you have children, so I've raised 5 kids. If I was parenting one child at a time, right, and it never worked this way, and had to like deal with one child, I could sit and take them from A to Z. If all 5 ganged up, so I'd come in from work and all 5 would want help with their homework and all came at me at once. What would end up happening is, what do you do at that point? You start triaging and the stress level goes up, and you do not make the same decisions you would make if it was a one-on-one situation, right? So that gets magnified on a day-to-day basis in our households when we're stressed and things are coming at us and we start triaging and defending as opposed to thinking critically. Anxiety and depression go hand in hand with stress management. Some of that is biological. A lot of it is situational and environmental. What happens with our behaviors? So as the stress goes up, we become more restless. We become more agitated. Our bad habits increase. We don't sleep well. So if sleep is supposed to be the period of the day where your body restores and replenishes, and it's getting interrupted because of our stress and our worry, we are not healing and fixing the body as we should be. More mistakes. And so the tireder we are, you know when you're tired. So last week, I actually put the mayo in the cabinet and I put the peanut butter in the fridge. And I did that 3 times. And by the 3rd time, my husband's like, why don't you go take a nap? And I'm like, I think I'm going to do that. Right. And he's like, what should we do with this mayo? I'm like, throw that mayo out because we don't know when I did that. So you start to make mistakes when you're tired or when you're anxious. And when you are not present, you're simply just not doing your best work. Right. Your emotions, you're irritable, you're alienated, you lose confidence. Right? You lose the ability to get things done. You feel paralyzed. These are all the impact of stress on your life. Questions on that?
I guess the next question, and I'm sure it's somewhere in the slide, is what can we do to reduce the stress that we're all facing right now, Kay?
Oh, heck yeah, sister. Right. I mean, that is the bottom line. All right.
I feel sorry for the people who are trying to do work and raising children. And like you said, triaging 5 kids when you come home from work. Can you imagine waking up before coffee and having to do math?
Right. So I'm fascinated at this whole watching my friends' response, because a lot of my friends are homeschooling their kids right now. And so they are they're working from home. So they're doing their job that they normally did outside the home. So they're doing their job, they're running their home, they're running a school, and they're protecting their family from corona and trying to figure out how to get to the supermarkets and do the things and keep everybody safe. And I'm watching their heads, the tops blow off, right? They're really, really crazy. Something's got to give, right? Yeah. So if we move on to the next slide, we will look at when we talk about stress reduction. So how do I explain? I'm going to explain this. I'm just going to be honest because I'm always do my best to be honest. I'm a nurse. Over the years, I have not spent a whole lot of time thinking about emotions, emotional well being. How do you feel? Let's all talk about our feelings. It's never really occurred to me the correlation between stress reduction, emotions, and your body. I now see this connection. It is so intertwined, it's unbelievable. But it doesn't need to be complex. So, this is traditionally when people say to us, you got to reduce your stress, right? I love when the people go reduce, your doctor says, go reduce your stress. Oh, you're stressing me, right? How do we do this, right? Walking, swimming, hobbies, music, dancing, reading, right? All great things to lose ourselves in, to distract ourselves. But what I want to talk about is a simple enough solution that it's not about distracting. It's about changing. So I think that some of these are great. I love, like, when I'm outside and I'm gardening, there is no stress. I'm as happy as can be. I am distracted as all get out. But when I'm done gardening, the issues that I perceive to be stressful is still there, right? So what I want to be able to do is to talk today about these things are great and are helpful, but this isn't getting to the root of the problem of stress. So let's take a look at our next slide. So here's the first. There's a couple of concepts I want you to walk away with today. This is a pretty major one. What if there is no such thing as stress? Okay, stay with me and follow me and trust me, I haven't lost my mind. So each of us have an internal guidance system. You can call it your gut reaction. It is a sensory based system, just like fight or flight, and it tells you what's going on and when you should and shouldn't be paying attention. And I would argue that when you don't pay attention to that, that's when the proverbial poo poo hits the fan, right? So all of a sudden, 5 kids descend on you as you come through the door from work, and they all want to tell you about their day, their homework, their this, their this, their this. And you stand there and you allow that as you have a pit in your chest and your stomach, your head starts to throb, right? You can't hear and be present for any of it. And what your body is trying to tell you is stop. Don't play this game. Step back, ask everybody else to step back and handle this appropriately. But what do? Being super women or supermen, we feel that we should be able to handle these situations. So we allow ourselves to be in a situation where the stress is rapidly escalating, and we're managing it. We think we're managing it, when in fact really the stress is very much managing us. So what I would say to you is the first way to understand what we call this internal guidance system is start paying attention to your body. And when you get that yucky feeling right in here in your chest or in your belly, a little bit, not quite your belly, above your belly button. So it's really in this area. Let me stand up because I don't know if you can. It's here and here, right? When you talk about this gut reaction, that is your first sign that your body is saying to you, this is potentially a stressor that you might want to address. And what I'm saying is don't ignore that, because that's what's leading to the uncontrollable stress. Okay. The guidance system was programmed just for you to allow you the information you need to deal with your life. The answers are actually there when we are worrying. Most of the time, we override this system with our own thoughts and emotions and distraction. TV's on, radio's on, kids are running around, dogs are barking, all hell's breaking loose, boss is on the phone, we have our cell phone in our hand. And when you say, well, I don't think I have this system, you do, you're just not listening to it, and it's very, very distracted right now. Okay. So it's information that's giving you about your environment. It is your fight or flight response, highly, highly tuned for what you're doing and what's going on. So what I'm saying with that is, one of my girlfriends who I adore, she calls herself the little Portuguese grandmother. That's what she says. I'm just a little Portuguese grandmother. She feels like it is her job to take on the worries of the world. And when I sit with her and unravel her yarn ball of the worries of the world, what we realize is most of the stuff's not hers to worry about. It's not that big a deal. And we unravel why she's not sleeping at night. And we do this pretty frequently because she agrees that she can tell the difference with her internal guidance system, but that she goes so fast, she ignores it. Right. So it takes some time to learn to slow it down. So I want you to just open yourself up to the concept of when you feel stress, perhaps it's your body trying to get your attention. And what do we do to pay attention? Okay.
I was just going to ask you that, Kay.
What are we going to do to pay attention?
Because I need to do that.
Right. So this is the amazing thing about that. First, it's the whole concept of, trust me, when somebody first said to me, there's no such thing as stress, that's just each of us deciding to make this up. I looked at them, I was like, I don't think so. Right. And then the more I learned and studied and paid attention, I'm like, ooh, the answers are right there when we remove the stress. So on to the next slide. So first thing is about changing the story. Okay. And this is really, really, really powerful. So with this generation, myself and older, everybody, but I think particularly so with this generation. I think it's a little bit different with the generation Xers than it is the baby boomers and up. So your lifetime programming is determining your response to stress. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So when my friend who calls herself a little porty grandmother, there were cultural norms and things that went on in her house as a child that were similar, but very different than what went on in my home, right? We had different points of references. Everything that we do as adults was predetermined and written into us during the formative years to 7 years. So during that highly impressionable period, we held on to all those memories and we got our adaptive or maladaptive ways from the ages of 0 to 7. So those things that we were watching with our parents, our family, the impressionistic folks that were in our life sort of laid the foundation between 0 to 7. Now, here's the problem. And I think most of us know that, right? If you go back to something that happened when you were, that young, you realize, oh yeah, well, I still think about that. Oh yeah, maybe my mother didn't love me. She slapped me because I stole something out of the, fork drawer, right? And we're taking advice and we're running our life on the learnings of a 0 to 7-year-old. And I don't know about you, but I don't want my inner 3 or 4 or 5-year-old driving my bus. And yet, most of the dysfunction we see as adults is our inner child, right? So we laugh about this all the time. So when I lose my mind, and my family now knows because we've had these discussions over and over, they're like, quiet, her inner child is cooking dinner and she's cranky today. We turned it into a joke about it. So
it sounds like you have some code words in your family too.
Absolutely, because I think you need to keep a sense of humor about this. So we're humans, right? There's nothing I'm going to ever teach everybody here that's going to ever make anybody perfect, right? My goal is to always do perfectly imperfect a little bit better. So if you understand that there's stuff that happened or went on in your life in the younger years that is still impacting you now, when you see those behaviors, you stop them. You learn to stop. You learn to use code words. Yes, you learn to work with your spouse and your kids or the people you reside with to call each other out on these things so that you're collectively driving down the stress, right? It makes a huge, huge difference. So you want to pay attention to your thoughts and spoken words because that gives you the insight. So I will tell you, so my mother, who was a love, very traditional Irish Catholic, and she had very, very specific thoughts and words. And it's funny because you guys saw this at the beginning of the show. Nobody gets to see the mess in your house. If company's coming over, that house must be immaculate, right? So as we were doing a mad panic to get the show and move from my office to in here, I'm like, oh my God, look at the mess behind me, right? So there's patterns that hit us from when we were kids. There are patterns, let me think, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that are just so obvious. Money, right? So good girls don't talk about money. Good girls don't go to college, they stay home and they raise their families. They were all of these thoughts that my mom, felt very, very strongly about. She wasn't trying to limit me in any way, shape, or form. Those were passed down from her mom, but they stay with you. So as you make money, as you go off to college, there becomes this struggle with worthiness. And this goes back to things that this woman said inadvertently, at 3 or 4 years old to me. There's where your stressing starts to come, the incongruities as you see them. So use visual cues for the things that you know are bothering you. So I have little mantras, over my mirror, next to my bed, on the fridge, little things that you want to remind yourself of. If you know that you are somebody, for example, people that bite their nails, one of the things we tell them, put a little string around your wrist, right? Anytime you're going to bite your nails, touch the string instead of biting the nails, right? Find a distraction, find a reminder, but change the behavior. Involve a friend or your family members in a buddy system of this. So if you're somebody, so I always I refer to these people as, all of us have an Eeyore, right? An Eeyore is one of those friends that you call them and you go, hey, Mary, how are you? And they go, fine, God willing. I just don't, oh, my back is killing me again today, right? Call them reluctantly because they're so depressing, right? So we don't want to be the Eeyores. So asking your best friend when you say negative things or you're coming from a negative space to challenge you on that, hugely important, right? And that's a great thing that you can do with your family or with your close friends. The other thing you can do is do a daily gratitude journal, okay? And a lot of people are like, I don't want to journal. I don't want to. Here's the thing. If you spend 5 minutes before your head hits the pillow at night and write 5 things that you are grateful for before your head hits the pillow and goes to sleep for the night, you will sleep a whole lot more soundly, right? And it's not that it's the choice, right? So it's choosing to put something positive. So I could say, boy, I had a really lousy Mother's Day. I didn't get to go out to brunch with my kids. I didn't get to do this. I didn't get to do that. Or I can say, I had a really great Mother's Day. My kids came by, they honked the horn, they made a little parade, they brought beautiful flowers, we had tons of laughs. I made them a peanut butter jelly sandwich to go, right? We laughed. We'll remember this for a real long time. It's the same exact story. It's just how you chose to spin it, right? Mm-hmm. So choosing to spin things a little bit different. Gratitude journal is, you can't complain in your gratitude journal. You have to find 5 things. And I'll tell you, when you start, it's really hard to find 5 things that you're excited about. But then what happens is, after you've done this a few days, you start looking for things to put in your gratitude journal. So you start making decisions about things that make you happy. It's very, very powerful and it's very simple. It's cost effective. There's no side effects to it, right? And it gets the job done. So, if you went to your doctor tomorrow and they said to you, well, we're going to give you some Valium, but instead we're going to ask you to go home and write in your Valium, in your abundance journal, right? Most of us would go, we're not doing that. But why? Why? We don't need another pill. It's okay to take charge of your body, your behavior, your stress.
Hey, Kay, something that I want to share is on YouTube. There's a great YouTube video on gratitude by Louis Schwartzberg. And if you watch that, it will change your day. So if you get a chance, watch it. It is fabulous.
Will you spell his last name for me?
SCHWARTZBERG, Louis Schwartzberg on gratitude.
Awesome.
We share it as part of the Aging Mastery Program, and it just sets the stage for a day. You can watch it every day.
That's awesome. I love that. And I try and fill my day with as many of those things as I can. I am naturally optimistic. There are times, like everybody, that I fall into a funk, right? None of us are perfect. But I am amazed at, the stories that we tell ourselves, like the whole concept that I am who I am today at 55 because of something my mom said to me at 3 blows my mind. Just completely blows my mind. And I realize that we have to actively work to change that programming. You know, we really do. So let's take a look at the next slide. And the next slide is about learning to listen to yourself and learning to pay attention to the stress and learning to question yourself. So one of the things that we do, so it shouldn't surprise anybody that I am incredibly bad at meditating. Okay. So when I go to sit still, my brain will go to 200 places in 10 seconds. And I work and I quiet it, and I'm just not a good meditator. So this particular technique was my jam, right? So anytime I meditated, I literally, so my brain spins, I shut it down, and then I fall asleep. So my husband or kids will walk by and go, oh, she's meditating. And it looks just like a nap, right? That's how I am. This I can do. This is a 90-second thing that we call dropping into flow. And it is really, really simple because you can do this with your eyes open. You can do this in work. You can do this in the supermarket. You can pretty much do this anywhere. And it's so, so simple. It's put your feet on the ground, right? And if you guys want to do this along with me, by all means, put your feet on the ground. Take your hands, palms up, and rest them on your thighs. Okay? Just nice and easy. And you're just going to breathe slow through your nose. And you're going to use your ears, your hearing, and start listening to the quiet around you. You find the quiet, basically. And you do that for 90 seconds. It's sort of like a refresh. So I'm just going to sit for a minute and have you guys do this along with us. In and out through your nose. Feet in the floor. You're listening for the quiet, and you're feeling the tingly in your hands and your feet. Okay, and in the interest of time, I'm going to cut that short, but that is the brain space in which you want to make your decisions, right?
So really, anytime you make a decision, you should wait 90 seconds and breathe first. Is that what you're telling us, Kay?
Absolutely, positively. So when I would come home from work and the kids would all come at me.
Best piece of advice for the day.
And literally, right? I would always say to them, please let me take my coat off, right? As moms, we always do that. Give me 5 minutes to myself. Sit down somewhere in a chair, put your feet on the floor, breathe, shut down the cortisol surge, right? So as you sit there and you're feeling the tingliness in your hands and your feet and you're listening for the quiet, you are stopping your body's fight or flight response. It takes 90 seconds. And then make your decisions. Okay. Right? It's that simple. And it works. You can do it anywhere. So if you're out shopping and all hell is breaking loose in the supermarket, or you're anxious, or you're at home and you're feeling highly anxious, shut the TV off, shut the noise down, put your feet on the floor, put your hands on your lap, and just breathe and listen for about 90 seconds. That's it. It really, truly is effective. And I think I like to, when I talk about this technique to people, you're not meditating, right? Because meditating is a scary word for a lot of people, right? And sure, is it great? Is it wonderful? Yes. Not everybody's at that level that they can achieve that. This is cheap, free, and easy, and you can do it in your home during the whole quarantine piece. You can do it when you get off the phone with your kids that make you crazy. You can do this anytime at all. You're watching the news, shut the news off and deep breathe, right? Really simple. So simple. So I will happily answer any questions that you ladies may have about this. I don't know if anybody had any questions from at home, But
So, Kay, I've heard some breathing techniques. One, breathe in one, like if you have a mantra, 2 words that you want to live by, breathe in one of the words, breathe out the other word, do it, like you said, for a minute, helps to calm you and get you into the place where you need to be. Do you find that effective as well?
yes, so that's kind of merging all of it. So when I say leave little notes to yourself on the mirror and that, there's your mantras. So whether you do it that way or you're sitting and in that 90 seconds, it's, you know, it's what you could be telling yourself. I handle stressful situations really well. I do a good job making decisions. You know, you can pick whatever it is that you need to hear, and you know better than anybody what you need to hear while you're doing that. And there's all sorts of different breathing techniques. There is meditations. There's all that stuff. To me, what's singly most important is don't focus on so much as a technique as the fact that you have everything you need. You have all the tools. You don't need a book. You don't need anything. Just sit still and be quiet for 90 seconds. Even if you forget to put your feet in the floor and you forget to put your hands on you and you forget to quiet your mind, sit still for 90 seconds. You definitely won't be worse.
Great. So I was going to say, Kay, one of my favorite things to do, when you have the kids that make you crazy or life that makes you crazy, my best friend and I go for the walk. You get 3 things done. You exercise, you see your friend, and you burn off whatever you had to get out in the bubble that you don't share with anyone else. I think that's the best form of therapy. What about exercise? How's that for stress?
Absolutely, positively. So there's a ton of different things we can do once we've gotten ourselves up here. What do the de-escalation techniques look like? Walking, swimming, reading, right? Taking ourselves out of that stressful situation, all of that. You can't beat exercise and going for a walk in the woods. There's something just so absolutely healing about being outside. I find dealing with this whole virus now so much easier now that the weather is cooperating and we can go outside. So yes, I think exercise is a great way to do it. I think the thing people need to realize is, one, your attitude is something that you have an ability to choose every day and every morning and in every situation, and pay attention to how you're choosing it, right? Pick the right words, pick the right perspective. Find a way to find the silver lining in things that drives the stress down.
So Julie she has a question for us. Julie, can we turn it over to you?
Sure. As always, Kay, this has been incredibly fabulous information. Over the past few weeks, you've dealt with different specific subjects. Last week was all about your gut health and how important that is. When you said the thing about how it comes to your chest or right on the kind of below your rib cage, anybody who can remember back on a really stressful time in their life, it always felt like that's the stomach's in a knot feeling. Is that not right? Is that what you're describing?
Absolutely, positively. Oh my God, girl, you just start. So now you're starting to pull all my little pieces in.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about the neurotransmitters in the brain to the gut, and where you're feeling them along the vagus nerve, which is right in that area that I'm exhibiting to you, the upper chest to upper abdomen. So it's the finally pulling it all together that we are what we eat, we are what we think, and the importance of owning our disease and our illness through the choices that we make. And that's not to blame, that's an empowering thing, right? So I am all about my patients. What can my patients do to take care of themselves and drive down the incidence of disease and mortality? And what they can do is, eat well, right? Last week, gut health, think well, do well, right? These things really, really matter. And I will tell you something. So in my day job right now, what I've been doing is I'm working with the state of Massachusetts doing the COVID tracking tracing. So I am speaking to several people a day who all have contracted the virus. And what's interesting, and of course, this is not science. This is one person's anecdotal, what I've heard and what I've experienced. The things that people are doing to recover are amazing. Lots of alternative soups, turmeric, tea, all natural, and listening to them talk about their cultural interventions for all of this. They're getting back to basics to take care of this pandemic. I'm not hearing or seeing. Very, very few. Maybe of all the hundreds of phone calls I've made, less than a handful of people have been on antibiotics, or the things that we're seeing on the media. I would say overwhelmingly 90% or better are handling this with the old fashioned remedies, getting back to basics.
So
I was going to say there's nothing like a cup of tea with some honey in it. And I would say that brings you back to when you were 5.
Absolutely, positively.
So that's a fascinating way to look at this. You don't hear, and you're right, on the mainstream media, you do not hear about all the people that have gotten this, that have tested positive but aren't in the hospital, that are just,
yes,
they're treating it at home. And what you're saying is, and this was, I always wondered this, how many people are actually, and I know you can't give antibiotics for a virus, viral versus a bacterial, there's no antibiotics that'll help. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah. Yeah, and for some of those that are treating this with antibiotics, they're saying that the secondary infection that could come because of viral invasion is why they're using antibiotics. I'm not a fan, but I'm not a doctor.
Okay. So, and that makes total sense. And the other part of that is, so people are sitting at home and they're saying, okay, I'm gonna treat this like if I have the flu, what do I do? Well, I rest a lot, I have lots of fluids, I eat better, I eat well, and basically everything you've told us for the last 4 weeks is all about mind over matter, or your ability to decide how you're going to react to, or what you're going to subject your body to, or the decisions that you're going to make every day are more critical than ever in a time of great stress. Is that a good takeaway for today?
Amen, sister. It really is. It is about understanding that and during this period of time when you think everything is out of control, you are fully in control. You have the ability to choose your attitude, your environment, your food. One of the things that the state of Massachusetts is doing, and I mean, I'm blown away of how lucky we are to live in Massachusetts. They are out delivering food to a lot of these families that where, multiple generations living together and the virus has hit all of them. They're making fresh food deliveries out there to them. So it's not like they're not getting canned this and processed this. They're getting fruits and vegetables delivered to them. And that makes me feel like, oh my God, we get it. I all politics aside, I think Governor Baker has done an unbelievable job looking after people in this state during this period. And I'm honored and love when I see these people receiving groceries that are fresh, foods and vegetables for them. So,
and one other thing to take away from this, if I hear you right, and I think I do, and I really listen to what you say every week, is we have a chance to reset our entire way we live and we think. We're forced into it, and could that be maybe a silver lining of all this? Kay, could you speak to that?
Oh, sister, you're speaking to my heart now. So I pray every single day on this one that we do not resume life as normal when this is all over. That we take these incredible lessons that we've learned, that we look at what happens when we stop living the way that we were living, what that does to the planet, for the animals, for the environment. This whole being able to use NASA's technology to see the shift in gases, right? We've all accepted global warming, holes in our ozone layers, all that stuff. I don't believe moms should be at work all day and not have an ability to be at home and find a work job solution that allows them to raise their families, right? So when my friends are struggling right now because they're trying to work from home, what I'm trying to say to them is, okay, relax. You don't have to be the teacher, right? You go find the resources online to be the teacher. So I think that there's so many important lessons. I'm worried about people, not things right now. I want to stay focused on people, not things. I want other people to stay focused on other people and not things. I want us to keep focusing on worrying on whether or not our neighbor needs something, right? And I don't want to see us all rushing back. So last night on the news, this has never happened in my whole life. Last night on the news, they showed the screenshot, the traffic picture for Boston, right? And I grew up in the city of Boston, so I'm used to seeing where the red is. I know that you'll see the traffic all backed up at Quincy, the expressway, going north, going south. The entire map was green with no red on it. And that meant that those people who have to go to work were not experiencing traffic jams or stress or the smog or all the noise, the nonsense, right? Like, we can do this. We can make change. I don't want to see us come out of this and go back to business as usual. I think that would be an absolute tragedy.
So, Kay, lots of great information this week in regards to stress, what we can do. It sounds like we need to take a pause, make sure you're breathing, have a cup of tea, enjoy that crazy family we all live with. And this is really a special silver lining and a gift of time.
Absolutely, positively. Yeah, use this time wisely and enjoy it. And stay with me. Fight hard to keep it this way, because we deserve to live in a life that is so much calmer, with so much fewer expectation. Even our doctor visits. Both my husband and I have had our annual checkups done during this virus by way of virtual, by a Zoom call. And I'm all for it. All for it. I would so much rather see my doctor do that and be able to not have to travel and none of us get contaminated and get in it was the most thorough physical I've had in 20 years, right? All these great things, hold on to them. Change is okay.
Great. Well, Kay, thank you again for this week's show. We can't wait till next Wednesday with another exciting topic on how to stay healthy, well, sane, together with your family during this crisis. So thank you for all your knowledge, your kindness, and your heart.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank
Truly
you so
my
much.
Pleasure.
Thank
you, ladies.
Thank you. And if you want to watch this show again, you can go to pactv.org/Duxbury. One other thing, as a closing thought, is we are not all in the same boat. I mean, you hear that all the time, and somebody wrote that on a long dissertation that I happened to read on Facebook, and they were saying that we're not all in the same boat, and that some people are able to do way more than others. Some people's stress is beyond belief because they're, whether it's financial or health-wise or whatever it is. So, but the one thing that we all can do, and we are all in that same boat, and I think this is the big takeaway from UK today, is how do we ourselves mentally handle it? How do we allow ourselves to at least take that 90 seconds, and I love that exercise you gave, to just kind of recenter yourself and say, I'm going to do the best I can right now. And nothing is forever. And good changes that we can make during this period of time are critical, and I totally agree with you. And life will never go back to exactly the way it was, and maybe the things that weren't so great won't be there anymore, and that's a good thing. But then again, it's all from people's perspective. So I think we have to qualify everything we say, that everybody has to do what they need to do from where they sit in their lives, in their particular situation. The counsel that you're giving is wonderful for our health, for our mental health, for our physical health, and I so appreciate it. So until next week, and I can't wait to see what you have for next week at 10:30 on Wednesday. This is Julie Thompson, Executive Director of PACTV, saying thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you, ladies.
Take care.